Hello and welcome. My name is Vanessa Ortali. I am the founder of the Ladies Community and Heart and Mind Talks. And today I present to you another amazing conversation for our summit, The One. And the theme of this summit is one with self, one with purpose, and one with others. And I am so jazzed to bring you my friend Leyla. You may know her from her YouTube life when she was doing Luxy Hair and hair extensions, but I know her as a thought leader and a community influencer, helping people to tune into themselves. And that's why I wanted to bring her here today, because I wanted to chat with her and share her story with you about how she transitioned her purpose, how she started to connect with the truth of who she is and to connect with herself, and what that means currently and will mean for the transition of her community, and how she continues to serve and connect with her community through her evolution and her new mission and connection to self. So welcome, Leyla. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. I love everything you're doing. You are one of the most genuine, as well, thought leaders and way showers out there. And I'm just, it's a privilege to be here on your summit.
This is going to be so fun because we just hopped on. We didn't even do a little catch up before because I
We
wanted
did
the
not.
conversation to be as real as possible.
Yeah.
And now you will just get a little insight of, what we talk about. And I love you. Everyone needs a friend like Leyla because we can chat about such deep things. And what I look for in friendships is that, connection and that thought, and how we can truly accept each other for who we are, but also continue to assist in our evolution as we expand and evolve. So thank you for being
Absolutely.
who you are and for being in my life. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
feel exactly the same way. Right
Oh,
back at
so
you.
good. Love. So let's chat back to Luxy Hair Days, because if people
Hmm.
know you from hair extension land and YouTube, they may not know the truth of who you are today. Bring us back then to who were you, Leyla, starting out Luxy, and what did that stage of your life look like?
Yeah. I mean, as I undergo this spiritual awakening, that's like the term that I kind of use that I think is digestible for most people. It's still being revealed to me as to who it is that I'm becoming. And I'm kind of learning to truly live in the present moment. So it's even going back, it's very difficult to connect to that identity that is continuously shedding out of me, or integrating as well, because I think a lot of the times in the spiritual communities, the ego is like thought of as this thing that you want to get rid of or whatever. And the more I learn and kind of the wisdom that I integrate, the more that I understand that it's not to be shunned, it's to be integrated. So to answer your question, I mean, it's just truly been an evolution, and that person like really does not exist any longer. But where she was at the time when Luxy Hair came to be was this was back in 2008, when the economic crash happened, and I was at a job that I was not happy in. And my sister Mimi and her husband Alex were kind of all trying to figure out our place in the world, and we all were dreamers, and we all kind of just felt intuitively that we had this thing that we came here to do. But so they came up with the idea of starting this brand of extensions that at the time there was a huge gap in the marketplace for, and they invited me into it. So from my side at that time, I was searching for my purpose, and I've had moments in my life many times where I was like literally on my knees, just like, show me the way, because I don't know. And it was one of those moments. And after, genuinely opening myself up for guidance, this opportunity came into my existence. And, because there's nothing, like, I was just open to everything. And, it was so new and so different, but it was truly a blessing and a presence of grace in my life that to this day, had it not been for Luxy Hair, I have no idea, like, how would I have this community and an opportunity to have a platform to share the evolution of my mission. So it is a blessing that at the time felt like a passion, but as I continued to evolve, I realized that it was not aligned anymore. And although from like the logical point of view, it would have been like why would you want to leave? It's so lucrative, you have this, the following and all these things. That never is what drives me. What drives me is inner peace, inner fulfillment. And I don't know how you can show up and do something that's not genuinely aligned. So when I stopped enjoying making videos and when it became a chore, I just knew I can't do this anymore. And not only that, but even if you don't think of yourself as like someone that reads energy, we all do. Like viewers know, they pick up on the genuineness and the authenticity. And I just felt like it just was not in alignment. It was not ethical almost, that I could just not continue to show up in that way. So, we agreed that, it was time for it. And where they wanted to take the business was completely different direction. And it was, again, just an issue of alignment. And so, yeah, I followed that inner calling and I left, and I've been going deeper and deeper into, awakening more and more each day and expanding. And in that process, I became a mom, and that kind of takes you a little bit out of the mission aspect. I mean, it's still part of my mission. I believe that the parenting, and now again, even more as everything gets more revealed each day, I see how the parenting and the conscious parenting aspect, like I had to become a parent to then be able to serve the conscious parenting community, because how can you if you're not a parent, right? So it's all aligned, it's all kind of works together. And life always makes sense looking backwards, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I mean,
totally.
I'm just totally grateful for the opportunity of Luxy Hair, because I wouldn't have had the community and the platform that I do today if it wasn't for that. So that's kind of like a short evolution.
Yeah. Do you even recognize her when you look at, I know you've posted pictures online, like, do you recognize her and can you feel where she was when you look at those
Totally,
pictures?
totally.
Yeah,
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 she's very much alive, but the more I learn about the quantum field and the fact that like it literally all exists now, she's still somewhere out there, but it's just because my soul is expanding in this now moment. Like she's still me, like she, just like so is the inner child and all everything we've ever been and everything we'll ever will be. But yeah, so I connect to her deeply and I feel her, but it's just like, it's like shedding skins, right? um I'm not her anymore, but she's definitely still a part of me in a different way, if that makes sense.
yeah. How would you describe her?
Ah, a lot of struggle, a lot of insecurity, a lot of pain, um, a lot of confusion, um, just like not believing in herself and carrying a lot of just baggage and density that I wasn't even aware of. That as I stepped into this healing journey or the awakening journey, I became aware that that was even a thing. But yeah, just very dense, very um, always searching, because I knew that there was something. I've always known that like I am here for a reason. And also just like life on earth for me I've always felt like an outsider. Like I would look at humans and I'm like, I know I'm human, like I'm human, but it just didn't, like I was like, I don't get this human thing,
Yeah. Oh, I get it. I
um
feel the same. I'm laughing so hard just listening to you talk because that right there, I want people to hear that and know that you're not alone in feeling that. And there's so
yes,
many of us that feel this. So thank you
so
for saying
many.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, now finally it's like coming home in a sense to the truth of who I am and shedding the identities and like getting in alignment to like heaven on earth is here now. It's just a matter of energetically aligning to that, right? But I mean, it's just an evolution of my soul. And if anything, I have just deep compassion for her and for her struggle. And I'm sure one day I'll look back at this version of myself and feel the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful journey. There's still many struggles, there's still many points that the energy sort of takes me through that I still, as I purge and cleanse and integrate, there's still moments that that pain still resurfaces. But it's almost like, time is not linear as we know it. It's spiral. And so even as we're expanding, we might be experiencing what feels like the same experience, but it's actually because we've expanded at a higher version, and we're just, I don't know if it makes sense. Like, I don't know if I'm still, because of this wisdom, I'm still integrating it. I don't know if I have the language to describe it yet. And I don't know if it's making sense, but we are not the same as we were when that pain or the trauma happened, but it's almost like it's coming up at a higher level so it can be seen, you know, felt and allowed. So in order for it to be integrated, right? Because what is a shadow? It's just a lack of light, right? So as we bring the light of consciousness and awareness to it, it just gets, you know, we're shedding that darkness and just becoming more of who we already are. So yeah, that's,
Yeah,
yeah, I just have
that makes
compassion for
sense.
her.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense. What was there a moment in time, or was it a series of events that triggered your spiritual awakening?
It was definitely a series of events. I think when it actually started like consciously was when we first moved to Canada and I was 18, and I um, recently reconnected with my first ex-boyfriend in Canada. And, you know, he reached out to me, and anyways, that's not the point of the story, but, you know, I told him this, that like you were the catalyst that brought kind of this conscious awakening to me with the certain book called Conversations with God.
Mm.
And yeah, that's kind of when we first moved to Canada, and that book was like my soul what like came to life, because I've never before was I ever introduced to this wisdom or these concepts, and I was like, oh my god, this makes so much, it was like a remembrance. And the more I learn about this stuff, it's like, you know, the veil gets taken away and you're seeing things clearly, and the illusion of it. And yeah, it was definitely a series of events that started, I would say, with that book. And just like, you know, the universe keeps giving you what you're ready for to sort of integrate, right? So
Mm.
yeah, it's constant series of events that
And was
continue to take place.
this had happened while you were still at Luxy Hair?
This happened before Luxy Hair. I was 18, and
Oh,
then
oh
it was just
wow.
continuously. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
that's when it kind of started that I consciously remember.
Mm,
And then, of course, you know, I think when it really, really started was in when I after I left Luxy Hair, because almost like that was a catalyst for my soul to finally step into freedom, because I had financial freedom to just like not weigh you down, is when I decided to move to LA. And, you know, and that's when kind of things started to happen, because I started to learn about emotional intelligence, and all the stuff from the past started to come up to the my awareness. And that's how you heal, is when you have awareness of things at the first kind of gateway. And yeah, just it's constant, it's constant evolution, it's constantly expanding from that place.
yeah. If people are in a situation now, you know, we often find ourselves in jobs or situations that may not feel right, but we're not really sure. What advice would you give them to tune into? You said your values were inner peace. How can they decide what their values are and what the right decision is for them?
I think just humanity in general, that's our issue, quote unquote, is that we are disconnected from our hearts, and that we are a society that lives up here in our heads. And in general, what human evolution and consciousness is going through now is that journey from head into heart into body. You know, we're almost like these dismembered heads that just, you know, we're programmed to into a certain belief system, and we're operating from that. So the first thing is to set the intention to connect to your true authentic self that each one of us has. We are all source in form, right? So recognize that you're not just your identity, your story, your trauma, your drama. Like, just make that realization, and then connect to the truth, or set the intention that you are open, willing, and ready to connect to that part of yourself. And you do have to, in order for things to change in your outer world, you do have to start making changes in your habits. So if it's just 5 minutes or 3 minutes, even if that feels overwhelming, make the space in your day for stillness. And if you can do that in nature, even better, because, you know, earth already is at a higher dimension of consciousness. So the more time that we can spend with her and connecting to her, the more we're supported and the easier that connection becomes. And so yeah, just set the intention. And just because when there's so much support available to us from the invisible realm that we're just not aware of, we don't know how to connect, whether it's our own higher self, whether it's our guides or angels, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Quantum field, universe, doesn't matter what name you want to give it, it's out there and it's available to us. What it waits for is our free will. It's like a green light that we call on it, because that's how the universal law is, that they cannot interfere until we ask or that we declare that we are ready. So if you really want that, just make that intention, set that intention, and make space in your day, and just go easy on yourself, because it can be a challenging transition, because you do have to, in a sense, shed certain identities and layers and let go of a lot. And that can be a little painful, because our ego, our human, is so attached to all of that, right? And that's part of being human. So that transition can be a little bit challenging. And that's why the aspect of community is so important and powerful and almost necessary. I believe that's where we're heading as well, because with technology, all of us are in our phones, and we just need to use it for stuff like this, but come together, like really come together as one, and recognize that, although we experience ourselves as separate, we are one consciousness that is collectively going through an evolution, and we do need to come together with a shared mission of creating a better world, right? But what is the world but a collection of individuals? So it's like that circle, that full circle moment, right? So yeah, just set the intention and make the time, and make it a priority to create stillness in your life, whether it's starting with 3 to 5 minutes and making space to be outside, even in cold weather. If you're in cold climates like we are in Canada, can be tremendously helpful, just because you're going to get out of here and you're going to start to connect to that voice. And at first it might not happen, but just you showing up every day is showing the universe that you're ready, and then you will start to get guided, whether it's an inner whisper or a book or a person or a course, whatever it is, you're going to start to receive guidance. It's just how it works. So yeah, set the intention and make the commitment to start creating these habits in your day.
We were chatting a little bit earlier before this chat, and I'd love for you to give some insight as to what this evolution and spiritual awakening has been like for you.
Oh my gosh. I'm still trying to make sense of it. It literally feels like every day that I wake up, I'm in a different dimension. Like, whether it's like incremental dimensions, and sometimes, well, what happened was, this was in 2008, after I had both of my kids, and the first year of my son's life, he just was not a good sleeper. And now, knowing what I know, I wish I would have just co-slept or something just to get sleep, because like that lack of sleep really put me in a very depleted state on every level. And at that point, there was no practice of self-care whatsoever. So it was just a complete, like, I was in deficit and I was barely functioning. So
this is like real mom talk that I'm sure a lot of moms can relate to. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have this collective belief that we're finally shedding, that like we have to be these martyrs that constantly give and give and give. And that's just not sustainable. It might have worked for our, ancestors, for our grandmas and moms, to their, like now they're dealing with all the repercussions of that. But our generation, it ends with us, because it's not sustainable. You just cannot give and give and give if there's nothing to give. And that was like a really painful lesson that I learned, that I will never again find myself in. I just know that, because you truly see how like you cannot be there for anyone and give anything if you are in deficit, not even zero, like I'm talking deficit. And so that kind of painful place brought me again back to my knees. And what that did with, I know Michael A. Strahan, not Strahan, sorry, like Lee Singer, the Surrender Experiment and the Untethered Soul author. Just because I have a very strong mind and a strong ego, so it's a constant sort of dance between the shadow and the light. And so the shadow is very strong in me, and that's what I've been going through integrating. And so I had to consciously have to still uh, have a very strict is not the right word, disciplined practice of surrender every single moment when you can, um, in order for the light to actually like that dance, right? Like who is in
Yeah.
charge kind of thing. So it was that like I consciously made that commitment that from this moment on, I am on my knees, literally and figuratively, and I need to be guided. I can't, because clearly I don't know what I'm doing, and I've gotten myself into this thing. So now I'm stepping back and I'm inviting you, the divine, whatever name you want to give it, to now, you know, let's do this together. Let's have this co-creative experience where I vow to now listen from now on and consciously surrender, you know, that resistant voice, or you know, that negative voice, whatever it is. So it was with that commitment that I kind of restarted this journey. So this was back in 2018, and I feel like because I made that commitment, um it's almost like this energy took over my life, which is light, which is for my highest good. And it's been taking me through the roller coaster of going from a caterpillar into a cocoon and eventually emerging as a butterfly. I have not emerged yet, but I am on the precipice, what it feels like. And it's just literally that metamorphosis of the human evolution, the mind, purifying the mind so that I can actually shed the density and embody the vibration of pure love, the essence of who we all are. And I'm not attached to what that looks like in terms of, I know that I'm here to serve, but I'm not interested, or like the human part of me sometimes does wonder like what, when and how, and you know, that part of you that tries to figure it out. But I consciously, you know, I hear her, I allow her to be, I accept her, but like I know that that's not the truth of who I am. It's just this fear, almost like the collective fear, uh, part of us that is there to help us grow. Truly, that's what its purpose is. So you hear it, you accept it, and then you consciously choose to let go and just come to a place of stillness and listen. Because if we actually learn to get out of the head and be in the body, in the present moment, so much magic and guidance is available to us. Yeah, I know you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? It's just beautiful. So it's just about like making it a practice, because what we are doing is literally creating a new human. Like physically, you're changing your brain cell, your brain neural pathways, everything. You're literally becoming a different person in your cells of your body, and activating dormant DNA. There's so much here that we could talk about for hours, which is
Yeah.
why I'm now like feeling the call to start to share everything that I've been learning. And of course, I'm not the only one. There's thousands and thousands of beautiful light beings and way showers out there that are already doing it. But it's like, it's almost like each one of us has to come online and get aligned with that individual purpose and mission, whatever that is for you, to then for us to collectively like ascend, right? Because each one of us will get there on our own, on their individual time. But if you're feeling that call, it's because your soul is ready, and it's just like urging you to get on the path, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Whenever we chat, you always say, I'm following the breadcrumbs, just like one breadcrumb at a time.
and
And
that
sometimes,
requires a
yeah.
lot of surrender. That's
Yeah.
like, gosh, because you know, the human part of us just wants to know. It wants to know
Yeah.
how and when, and that part of you that wants to figure it out. But gosh, is it ever liberating to just let all that go constantly? Like it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, I've let go and then tomorrow I'm like, oh, I'm free. No, it's moment to moment, because you're literally changing your brain as you're doing that practice moment to moment. And it's just, for me, it's been liberating myself more and more and more, and it's so beautiful. But for me personally, it's been extremely intense. It's like, you know, the hero's journey, so to speak. Like there's so many internal fires and dragons that I continuously kind of face on a moment to moment basis. The full moon constantly gets me to those places. Like like really like wishing that I could just not be here anymore. But I know now, I'm learning that it's part of the process of shedding and purging. Even just last Friday, like I was in bed sobbing because all the stuff was coming up. And then after I've purged, I'm like, I don't even understand what that was. Now I'm fine. Like each new moment is like you're literally new. And gosh, it's very intense for me. But honestly, I don't believe that it needs to be that way for everyone. It's just my own individual journey. Like for
Yeah.
me, pain is what pushed me to come to this place, and it's the vision and the mission that continues to pull me uh, towards making that commitment and the discipline, because it does require commitment and discipline in the mind. I don't believe that you have to work hard and hustle. Like that is a paradigm that I don't subscribe to, but it does require mental strength in a sense to
Yeah.
recommit moment to moment, because you will be pulled by that sort of shadow aspect of
Yeah.
humanity, you know,
How does the shadow show itself in you?
as
Or like, what does
judgment.
that feel? Judgment. Yeah.
Judgment. It's what I know for me in that ascension process, that what we're going through right now from 3D to 5D, you know, where we are now, I believe as humans on different kind of levels and spectrums are in 4D, is where we are purging and cleansing. It's that gateway to heaven on earth, what we are sort of collectively going towards, which is why everything is crumbling in the collective, all the systems, right? Because we need to, it's the way we've been living is not sustainable. We absolutely must now individually start to make these changes and then collectively create a new world, because otherwise we are going extinct, right? It's just not sustainable. So what was the question? You asked me something about, oh,
Of
judgment.
how the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I believe for me personally, what my, like that little switch that I'm working towards every day, that's what keeps me in 3D. It's that entanglement with judgment, that just human mind, right? And there's a point where it's important to have, there's discernment, which is kind of like for our safety, but then there's just judgment, like pure judgment, right? And
Yeah.
that's the part I'm talking about. Discernment is important. That's almost like maturity and wisdom of the soul, but it's the judgment that it's like the lower brother of it or sister of that
Mm-hmm.
discernment, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so
That
yeah,
shows
it's
up in me
definitely
too.
judgment.
Yeah,
It's
mine
just a
is also,
human.
yeah, right? Like it's judgment, and I can hear, I just have an opinion about everything. Like, oh, this is
Hmm.
good, this is bad, this is, and once I actually ask myself, like, is that my pain talking or is that my truth talking? My truth doesn't give a shit about anything. She's just like, just let them be, just do their thing, like, whatever. Right?
Right,
And then
right.
the judgment also sometimes shows up in me as insecurity, right?
Oh
Because
yeah,
then it's like, I can't do this. This is, I'm never going to be successful. People are going to hate me. It's so, listen to how the darkness shows up in you and
yeah,
realize it's the darkness. It's not your truth. And
yeah.
what you're saying, I love what you said about like you're creating a new human and
Hmm.
you get to decide which version you want to show
Yeah,
up as
yeah.
every day. And the
Every moment.
darkness, right? The darkness still comes. And I'm always thinking, man, I'm still rewiring this pathway, right? Holy moly. Yeah.
You know why I think it's taking feels like so long to the human? It's because we are doing this at a collective, on an individual but also
Mm,
collective level, because we are not separate. We experience ourselves as separate, but so long as there is, people out there that are destroying things themselves and the environment and things, it will show up for us as well, because we are
mm,
not separate. We are one consciousness experiencing itself as humans, right? So it will show up for us as well. And it's almost like, not to say we are better or worse, it's not about like hierarchy, but there are certain waves of souls that came in to be kind of like the way showers, and there've been many before us that thanks to them they've made it possible for our generation to be have access to this higher consciousness and these vibrations that are here now, right? So it's almost like these waves, everyone will get there. It's just a matter of like, if you're feeling the call and you're like, I gotta do something, I have this mission, I don't know what it is, whatever,
mhm.
it's because you're part of that wave that's here now to do this inner work. And then in us being who we are, it's not even about what you're doing, but it's about being, because you're literally holding a higher vibration. And in that state of being, your next steps are clear. There's no having to figure anything out. You are guided. It's like, and you don't need to know 10 steps ahead. All you need to know is the next step and the next step. And that's why the trust and the surrender is an absolute must, because without it, like if you have no faith, if you have no trust, you can't do any of this, right? That's like
Yeah.
a prerequisite. um, it does require a lot of courage. Like courage is just, that's all it takes, because at every moment, to face the shadow, to face the fear, you must find that courage within you, because without it, you are in the hands and the grip of the fear, and then you're just holding yourself back, right? There's so much available to us that I'm not even going to say I'm tasting. I'm just like starting to touch and to really have some wonderful experiences of like my limitless nature, and the fact that like we are creators. We are literally we are creating our reality with our mind, and with the energy that we're bringing. And gosh, there's so much available to us that we're, again, like we're just learning to start to tap into. It goes way beyond manifestation. This is like, I
Yeah.
am creator frequency. Manifestation is great, but it's almost like, that's like child's play. Like we are creators, you know what I mean? We have so much power over our vibration, what we're choosing moment to moment, that affects our reality. Because number one, your perception creates your reality, and number two, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. And what does that mean? That means you're what vibration you are holding. And what does that mean? What level of consciousness are you at, right?
Yeah.
So on the spectrum, there's deeply unconscious, deeply asleep, and then there is enlightenment, right? Like self-realization. So all of us are somewhere on the spectrum, and all of it is perfect, because it's all part of this matrix that we're in, right? This illusion that we're in. um, so there's, again, when I connect and I'm in a state of like, when I meditate and I'm not in my lower self, like I see the beauty of it, right? And that allowing each one to be where they're at without judging their experience or thinking that we know better of what they need to do, right? And that's the practice, that's the spiritual practice that is required, and the discipline that's required, the mental discipline to, number one, have the awareness, and then number two, to consciously choose light, right? And yeah, it's work, it's mental work, but it also means freedom. And like once you taste freedom, you cannot go back to being asleep. You just can't, it's not possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's why the surrender too is so important, because we only see what we know.
yeah.
And for us to truly continue to expand and be put on the path of what we're here to do and be of service, we don't know what that looks like. And so it's just following those breadcrumbs completely blind, and just putting one foot in front of the other. And then it will be revealed one day, maybe not, right? But we only know what we know.
It does get revealed. From my personal
Yeah.
experience, it
Yeah.
gets revealed. It might not get revealed on your time,
Yeah.
but it will be revealed to you on divine timing, on perfect divine timing, when you are ready. Because there's so many things that my human, which is another way of saying ego, is thinks that she wants. But I know when I connect, I'm just not ready. Like I'm just not ready to be able to do that which I desire, which I know is part of my blueprint as a soul. But I'm in the preparation phase of actually being able to hold that vibration genuinely, right? I might have moments where I connect to that and I hold that for a certain period of time, but on a sort of a consistent, permanent basis, to be able to hold that vibration in order for me to show up as the master that I'm working to become, like that inner mastery I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that's where manifestation kind of gets sticky for people too, because
Hmm.
now we live in a world where manifestation and spirituality, it's really cool and trendy. But in my opinion, from what I've seen, is manifestation also looks like another form of control. Like I want this and I need this and this is how I want it
Yes.
to look. when really
Right.
we're not surrendering to the truth of who we are and how we're supposed to
And
be
we
of
cause our own
service.
suffering,
Yeah.
right? Like how much suffering
Yeah.
does that cause us when you think, you have your perfect vision board and you're like, I want it, I want it, I want it, and you're giving it all attention. But meanwhile, what are you saying vibrationally? I want it,
Mm,
therefore I don't have it now. You're in lack, right? So that in and of itself is keeping you separate from actually drawing that reality to you.
yeah.
What I'm learning now is that what allows for things to beautifully, gracefully, effortlessly be created in your reality is when you already you're in the vibration of having it. So you have to come to a place in your journey where you are totally satiated where you are, and that vibration is what brings things to you with ease and grace without having to effort and push and figure things out. It's a paradigm shift. It's a completely different way of existing in the world. And that's the transformation, is going from, gosh, I probably am the most controlling person I was, uh reforming and transforming. Like that's the hardest part for the human, to just like freaking trust already. Like you are guided. Like, do you need any more proof that you are guided? Like, look at how much quantum shifts you've already gone through. You're not the same person. Can you just relax already, right? And that's for me, like that relaxed piece, like really in your body. Like I find myself so many times being tense because you think you have to be somewhere at a certain time, or why is this not happening, or like whatever it is, right? And it's just like moment to moment conscious awareness of your body being like, okay, relax, breathe, breath work is everything. Like it really doesn't have to be like, it's our minds that think that things have to be complicated. It really is that simple. Just find your breath. When you feel yourself spinning, find your breath, connect to your body, consciously relax. If it's a mantra, if it's a movement, if it's a mudra, like whatever it is, like find that little thing that in practicality you go to every time you find yourself out of alignment, right? That's what I like to think of it as. Like I'm either in alignment with truth or I'm out of alignment. When you're in alignment, you're in the flow. Everything is just easy and effortless, and like everything is just happening, versus like you're just like, and I'm so aware now of those internal states. And once you expand beyond it and you experience higher state, being in the lower state feels excruciating now. It's like,
Yeah.
I might not even be where I used to be, but even just getting a little bit of like where you were, because it doesn't fit anymore, you've outgrown it. It feels literally excruciating. Like I need to get out of alignment. But that's where the practice of acceptance and surrender comes in, because in that process you don't know what's happening. You don't know. Your soul is collecting data. Like those experiences are important because that's how you are being prepared. Because what is earth? It's literally a school for our soul. Like it's evolving here. And so those moments are actually the greatest gifts, because in those moments is where we get to put into practice the wisdom that our higher self delivers to us, right? For me, it's parenting has been the absolute accelerated course of soul evolution, because it's constant. You can't get away, right? And even if you are just like at your absolute worst, you still have to show up. You still have to be the parent. Like, and gosh, it's the hardest thing. That's why if you look back at like all the ascended masters, they didn't have kids, because that's like next level. Like if you have kids and you're working to become a master, it's something else. And I know
Yeah.
parents out there will just like know that what I'm talking about, because it's harder. If I believe each soul comes with certain level of mastery. If you're like kind of the soul like me, who came with like a lot of control issues and perfectionism and all these things, like that's when it's the hardest. Because there's a lot of parents that they have challenges, but they don't find it as challenging, for example, right? Because they've already mastered those aspects of soul evolution, right? But yeah, for me, like that's been the hardest. But the more I surrender, the more I let go, the more I allow just myself to be fully present and connect. Like connection and play with in parenting is everything. It's the it's the difference between like struggle and suffering and yelling and like disciplining or whatever, versus like complete connection and flow, where you don't even need to discipline, because there's such connection that there is no defiance anymore. right? So yeah, and
Yeah.
they're a constant mirror with kids, like they're a constant mirror for your vibration, you know.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because my next question was going to be, how does this show up as a daughter, sister, wife, and mother? Right. And
Yeah,
it's
it
so
shows up in
easy. Yeah.
triggers.
Yeah.
It shows up in
Yeah.
triggers because, you know, when you have awareness, you cannot shut off awareness any longer, right? Like, so you're constantly aware of your internal state, and with your kids you're constantly being triggered because that's what they're here for. Like, they're literally here, you know, we have soul contracts, like, I'm going to teach you this, you're going to teach me that, you know what I mean? And so yeah, like, each of my kids is teaching me different things, and it's each relationship, honestly, it's not even about kids,
Yeah.
each relationship is teaching, is a reciprocal teaching experience that we're sort of supporting each other as souls.
Yeah.
And yeah, how do you know? It's when you're triggered. Like, know your triggers, because those are your best friends. Like, those are kind of like the red flags that if you want to grow, you really got to like know your triggers, because then you
Yeah.
can work through them, right? And I know
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Oh
about, because
yeah.
you're,
Well, and it's the
yeah.
same when I was really diving deep into my own spirituality. I feel like I had nailed it when I was by myself. And I was like, "Oh, I got this. Like, I'm good. I can find peace, no problem." And then
Right.
I got a boyfriend. And then, then all of those things then and literally I love him, but when we first started dating, he said all of the wrong things all of the time. And I was triggered nonstop. But to me, I chose not to see them as red flags, but rather I had asked before I met him, give me who I need right now. And he's allowed me to evolve into the person I see and I want to be. And I took those triggers as lessons to heal and to
Hmm.
continue to evolve, as opposed to choosing someone for me that just made me fit in my little
Hmm.
circle, made me feel comfortable and never triggered me. I chose someone who
Hmm.
triggered me all the time. And now it's not that. Now we continue to evolve together, right? And
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
such an interesting journey when we go about this self development path, because we're on our journey, but then the things around us are still happening. So, how do we
Hmm.
incorporate our own journey and growth with the relationships that we have? And children just magnifies that because you
Yeah.
can't leave
Yeah.
them, they're always there.
Oh yeah. It's a lifetime
Yeah.
commitment, baby.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
does that look like? How has your community support system and the people around you, how has that changed and evolved as you've evolved?
The community aspect I'm still working on, because I feel like for me, I'm so in tune with that guidance internally that it's almost like I know I got to do this individually at the moment, because it's so intense that like there's just going to be too much energy trying to manage and figure out. So I'm literally just like, because I surrender and I allow and I listen, I just know that like I'm not there just yet. That might change in 2 weeks from now or whatever. But at the moment, it's like I'm in the cocoon, like literally in the cocoon. I've been there for a while, but you got to give it time. You don't know. That's the thing of the trust. Like, from where we are standing, our vantage point, we have such limited view, but our higher self is ahead of us. It is orchestrating things on our behalf. It knows exactly what we need when we need it. So that's where the trust, again, right? Circling back to that over and over, because that's our main companion, trust and courage, because you got to have, like, those are, there's things that we're going to let go of, the baggage, and then there are things that we need to take on the journey. And courage and trust and surrender and faith, right? Like, those are all things that you
Mhm.
absolutely they are your companions on this journey that you go back to over and over, because uh yeah, it's, so the community aspect is not quite there just yet, but I'm gearing up to launch my podcast, and with that, in perfect divine timing, I know the community will start to come together. But there's a virtual community that has been my support system that I am so grateful that my higher self has brought me to, because without that wisdom and the knowledge that I'm constantly bombarding my consciousness with, I would not be where I am. So that's where that like self education comes in, because And when you start, like where we started our conversation with, like if someone wants to start, where do they start? When you surrender, you will know, you will be guided to the right teachers, the gurus, whatever, right? Like the right information will provide itself to you of what your soul needs at that exact moment to be the guide on your path to get you to where your soul has chosen to be, right, on its
Mm,
mission here. So uh, yeah, so the community aspect is extremely important, but for me it's still virtual. But I know that like when I connect and I, see the visions, it's, I have an actual like city that I've created, that is this community of,
cool.
beings that are living in the new earth and are like actively creating and contributing to it. But it's
Mhm.
it's still like out there in the
I get
future.
it. Yeah,
I
I
gotta
get
I
it.
gotta prepare the human. That's the thing. Like my human is not ready. I gotta prepare. It's almost like you gotta catch up your human to that level of consciousness, right? So
Yeah,
it's a hard
it's
one to
so beautiful.
swallow. It's so
Yeah.
it's so hard to swallow though, because your human just wants to be there already, right? But it's like, no, you're just not ready. Like,
Yeah.
how can you expect a kindergartner to drive a car? You can't. They need to learn, they need to do what they need to do, and they need the time that they need. And that's how I tend to think of my human. It's like, just give her some time. She's learning, and what do you feel for a child? Compassion, right? They're learning. My daughter, for example, she's so hard on herself when she can't get something. And it's like such a mirror for me, because that's how I've been my whole life, just berating myself when I try and I fail. Whereas now, like rewiring my whole perspective that like that is your best friend. If you're failing, and I started to talk to her about it, like, what did you try today and what did you fail at? Because that actually means you're learning, you're growing, right? And that's a huge thing for me that I'm trying, not trying, I am transforming in my mind, because it's, that was one of the traumas, like of, the story of like being a failure or whatever stories that we carry with us, right? So,
Yeah.
oh,
I love
there's
your
so many facets to
vulnerability.
this.
Yeah, no, I love your vulnerability in sharing this because there's something so raw and real about you owning, I'm not there yet. And that's okay. And I think
Yeah.
we need more people saying and doing that because it makes people feel like, hey, maybe I'm not there yet. It gives them permission
Hmm.
to not be
Hmm.
there yet, also.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
thank
just
you
own
for
where you
giving people
are.
that permission. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like a year ago, I was not there. Like even getting to this place of like, it's okay not to be ready. Again, I'm not saying I'm always there. I still have moments of like frustration where like, but like I just want to like, because this soul is like, it feels like I have this drive and this vision and it feels so real and I want to be there. But it's like, but you're just not there. Like relax. So it's this constant conversation, this dialogue between the lower self and the higher self, or the human self, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, like it's just like we just need to chill out. Like it's happening whether you want it or not. You're growing, you're expanding, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're on earth right now, you're part of the evolution. You're here to do the work, right? Whether you're doing it consciously, or things are happening in your life, or it feels like you're a victim, you're still going through it. It's just about like bringing that level of like conscious awareness to it, right? If you feel like you need it. If not, then
Yeah.
that's where you need to be, and that's perfect, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, whatever you got from this conversation, I hope that you can honor yourself where you're at and fully accept and love yourself for where you are. And I think when we get to that place, we also have more love and acceptance for everyone around us.
yes,
And yeah, and thank you, Layla, for sharing your journey, for committing to your journey, because, like you said, in you healing, you're healing and contributing to the oneness that we are. So thank
absolutely.
you. I really appreciate you. And
Thank you
if
so
you
much.
want to stay connected to Layla and her journey, she has her new website. You can register for any updates, is beingluca.co, and it's spelled Luca, Luca. So beingluca.co, and then your Instagram handle is
Real_, Layla. But I will be, once I've officially launched the website and the podcast, I will be changing all the socials to being Luca. But for now, it's,
okay.
yeah, for now it's Real_, Layla.
Awesome. So thank you again so much for being here and taking the time to share and
My
taking
pleasure.
the time for you. I love you so much and
I
sending you
love
so
you
much
too.
love. Thank you for listening. If you're listening, we love you too. You're awesome
Bye.
and
Thank you.
perfect just the way you are. So sending you so much love. Bye for now.
Bye.